stepped out of the transport shuttle and looked at the broken ship in front of him. It sat in the dry dock of station like a dead animal. The metal hull was torn and burned. Strange marks covered the outer walls. Had seen many damaged ships before, but this one was different. The design was not human. The curves and shapes did not match anything built on Earth. He walked toward the ship with his tool bag over his shoulder. His boots made heavy sounds on the metal floor. The salvage yard was quiet today. Most of the workers stayed away from this section. Did not know why. He was just a repair technician. He fixed things. That was his job. Captain was waiting for him at the dock entrance. She held a data pad in her hands. Her face looked tired and worried. Had worked for 3 years. He had never seen her look this way before. "I need you to assess the power systems," said. She did not make eye contact with him. "Check the main reactor and the secondary circuits. Report back what you find." "How long has the ship been here?" asked. 2 weeks, said. "The crew abandoned it the first day. They took the emergency shuttle and left." Raised an eyebrow. "They just left. What is wrong with the ship?" "Mechanical problems, we think," said. "The logs are incomplete. You will need to go inside and see for yourself. Do not go to the lower decks. Stay to the upper sections only." This was strange. Had never been given such specific orders before. He usually worked on any part of any ship. He did not ask questions, though. He just nodded and moved toward the ship's entrance. The airlock door slid open slowly. Stepped inside. The air was cold and dry. Emergency lights flickered on the walls. They made the shadows dance and move. Switched on his light and began to walk deeper into the ship. The corridors were narrow and curved in ways that felt uncomfortable. Everything was made of a dark metal that was not steel or aluminum. It felt smooth under his fingers. The walls hummed with a low frequency that he could feel in his bones. He found the main power chamber on the second level. The reactor was still, but it was not broken. Could see that someone had shut it down on purpose. The safety protocols were all in place. This was not a mechanical failure. Someone had stopped the reactor and left the ship. Spent 2 hours checking every connection and every circuit. Everything was clean. Everything was in working order. The reactor just needed to be powered up again. He could do that in minutes. He sat on the floor and looked at the reactor controls. This did not match what it said. She said there were mechanical problems, but there were no problems here. The ship was fine. The ship was ready to run. A sound came from somewhere deep below. It was a low, rumbling noise. Then silence. Then the noise came again. Stood up and looked at the corridor. The sound came from the lower levels, the levels where told him not to go. Climbed down the metal stairs. Each step took him deeper into the ship. The darkness grew thicker. His light could only push it back a few feet ahead of him. The humming sound from the walls grew louder. The frequency changed. It became almost like music. The lower levels were older than the upper sections. The walls showed signs of age. Some parts were corroded. Some parts were covered with a strange white dust. Did not recognize the materials or the construction methods. This ship was very old, much older than human space travel. He found the source of the sound. It came from a sealed door. The symbols next to the door were not in any human language. They were shapes and angles and curves that meant nothing to him. But the door had a control panel that was simple, just a red light and a green light. Reached for the panel. Something stopped him. An instinct told him to turn around and leave, to go back up to the upper levels and tell what he had found. But curiosity pulled at him. He wanted to know what was on the other side of that door. He pressed the green light. The door slid open with a hiss of old pressurized air. A chamber lay beyond. It was large and round. In the center of the chamber was a pod, a long cylinder made of transparent material, and inside the cylinder was a person. Stepped backward, his breath caught in his throat. He had found something that did not want him to find, something that made the crew run, something that made her nervous. The person in the pod had a humanoid shape, but the features were different. The skin was a pale blue color. The eyes were large and dark. The hair was long and moved as if floating in water, even though there was no water here. The person was asleep or unconscious, but they were alive, could see the slow rise and fall of breathing. The pod had displays on its side. Numbers and symbols flowed across the screens. Did not understand the language, but he understood enough. The person inside the pod had been there for a long time, many years. The pod had kept them alive. Heard footsteps above. Someone was coming down into the lower levels. Someone was coming to find him. He moved to the side of the chamber and hid in a dark corner. The footsteps got closer. A figure appeared in the doorway. It was not. It was a security guard that did not recognize. The guard had a weapon at his side. The guard did not see. He looked at the pod. He looked at the sleeping figure inside. Then he turned and left the chamber. His footsteps faded as he climbed back up the stairs. Waited in the darkness. His heart was beating hard. He looked back at the pod, at the person sleeping inside. He knew now why the crew had abandoned the ship. They had found this. They had found her. And now had found her too. He did not know what this meant. He did not know what he should do, but he knew his life had just changed. Everything had changed. The simple repair job was not simple anymore. The broken ship was not broken, and someone very important was sleeping in the darkness below, waiting to wake up, left the chamber and climbed back to the upper levels of the ship. His mind was spinning. He had seen something impossible, a person from an alien species. Someone kept alive in a pod beneath the ship. The crew had found them and fled in fear. He did not report to. He did not tell her what he had found. Instead, he worked on the power systems. He checked cables and circuits that did not need checking. He tried to think of what to do next. By evening, he left the ship and went back to his quarters on the station. He lay in his bed and stared at the ceiling. Sleep would not come. He kept seeing the face in the pod, the pale blue skin, the dark eyes, the long hair floating in nothing. The next morning, returned to the ship. Was not there. The security guard was not there either. He had the reactor room to himself. This time he went directly to the lower levels. He had to go back. He had to know more. The sealed door was still open from when he had opened it the day before. The pod still hummed with its steady rhythm. The figure inside had not moved, approached the pod and studied the controls. The displays showed the same information. Life support was stable. Heart rate was slow but steady. Brain activity was present but minimal. The person was in a deep sleep, maintained by the pod systems. Looked at the wall beside the pod. More symbols covered the surface. A kind of mural or written history. Pictures and shapes told a story but could not understand the language. A sound made him turn around. A low voice spoke from the darkness. Words in a language did not know. Froze, he was not alone. The voice came again, closer this time. A figure stepped into the light from his flashlight. It was the person from the pod, but they were awake now. They were standing. They were looking at with those large, dark eyes. Stepped back, his hands went up in front of his face, a sign of peace, a sign that he meant no harm. The figure raised one hand slowly. On their wrist was a small device. It glowed with a soft blue light. The device spoke. A voice came from it, not the person's voice but a translation of their words. "You are human," the device said. The words were simple but accented. "Yes," said, his voice shook. "I am. Are you human?" "No," the voice said. "I am not human, but I can speak your language now. The device teaches me. It learns from your thoughts nearby." The figure moved closer. Now could see them more clearly. They wore something like a robe or uniform. It was made of material that shimmered and changed color in the light. The figure was tall, taller than, but moved with a strange grace. "My name is," the device said. "What is your name, human?" He said, "I am a repair technician. I came here to fix your ship." "The ship is not broken," said. "I broke it on purpose. I crashed it here to hide, a long time ago, many of your years." "Why?" asked. Looked away. When she looked back there was sadness in her eyes. "Because people wanted to kill me, people from my world, people from my empire. They sent weapons to destroy my ship. I crashed here on purpose. The crash looked real. The damage looks real, but the ship still lives. I hid in the pod to sleep, to wait, to hope someone would come who could help me." Did not know what to say. He was just a repair technician. He fixed ships and machinery. He was not a soldier. He was not trained for this. "Why did the crew leave?" asked. "They found me," said. "They opened the chamber. They saw what I was. They were afraid. In their fear, they called for help, but not help for me. They wanted to turn me over to others. They wanted the reward for finding me, so I woke up. I made them leave. I used the ship's systems to scare them, to make them think the ship was breaking apart. They ran. They took the shuttle and left." "What do you want?" asked. "I want to live," said. "I want to leave this place. My people think I am dead. If I can repair my ship, I can send a message. I can tell them I survived. I can go home." "If I help you, I will be in danger," said. "Yes," said. She did not lie to him. She did not try to hide the truth. "You will be in great danger. People who want me dead will want you dead also. But if you do not help me, I will be trapped here. The pod will fail soon. My body is old now. The systems cannot keep me alive much longer." Looked at the pod behind, at the dark chamber, at the controls that showed failing systems. "Show me what needs to be fixed," he said. Relief showed on his face. She moved to the controls and showed him the ship's systems. The damage was real in some places, but the core of the ship was sound. The power supply needed repairs. The communication systems needed work. The navigation computers needed new programming. It would take time, many days of work. "One thing," said. "Your enemies, who are they? Why do they want you dead?" Was quiet for a long moment. "I made a choice," she said finally. "A choice that powerful people did not like. I refused to let them destroy an entire species, a weak species that did nothing to hurt them. I protected that species instead. For this choice, they want me dead." "You protected people who could not protect themselves," said. "Yes," said. Nodded. "Then I will help you. Let us start with the power systems. Show me everything." They worked through the night, knew every part of her ship. She explained what each system did. She guided through repairs he had never seen before. By morning, the secondary systems were online. By evening of the next day, the main reactor was running at half power. On the third day, heard footsteps above. Security teams moving through the ship. His time was running out. They were coming to find him. They were coming to find. He worked faster. His hands moved with skill he did not know he had. The power systems came alive. The lights burned bright. The ship hummed with life. "We must leave soon," said. "They will try to take me." "How long do we need?" asked. "One more day," said. "One more day and we will be ready to run." Looked at the footsteps above. At beside him, at the ship that was slowly waking up. He had made his choice. There was no going back now. The security team sealed the dock that afternoon. Was working on the navigation systems when he heard the announcement over the station speakers. The ship was no longer available for salvage. All personnel were to evacuate the area. Knew what that meant. They were coming for. He hid in the ship's corridors while the security teams searched above. They did not go to the lower levels. Captain's orders, probably. Keep everyone away from the lower levels. Do not let anyone near the sealed chamber. When the teams left, went down to find. She was waiting in the control room, looking at screens filled with alien symbols and data. "They are trying to keep us here," said. "They are locking down the dock. We cannot leave if they do this." "How much longer do you need?" asked. 2 hours, said. "The communication systems need final adjustments. Once they are working, I can send a burst transmission. My people will know I am alive." "And then they will come?" asked. "Yes," said. "They will come, not immediately. My empire is far away, but they will come. When they do, we must be ready to leave. Worked on the communication systems while studied the screens. She showed him how the alien technology worked. It was different from human systems, but the basic principles were the same. Power flowed through circuits. Data moved through networks. Information traveled on waves of energy. As he worked, told him her story. "I am an empress," she said. "I rule 47 star systems. Billions of people answer to my word. I was not born to this position. I earned it through intelligence and strength. When I took power, I made many changes. I reduced weapons spending. I increased spending on medicine and food. I brought peace to regions that had known only war." "That sounds good," said. "It was good," said, "but not everyone wanted peace. The military leaders wanted power. The weapons makers wanted profit. They saw my changes as a threat to their position. They started to plot against me." Installed a new circuit board into the communication array. The systems hummed to life. "There was a species," continued. "A new species that we had just discovered. They were intelligent but very young as a civilization. They had only just discovered space travel. Many of the military leaders wanted to destroy them. They said this species would become a threat in the future. They said we had to act now while the species was weak." "But you did not destroy them," said. "No," said, "I could not. I had seen what that species was capable of. They had art. They had music. They had love for their families. They were good people even if they were different from us. I gave them protection instead. I declared them a protected species under my empire's law. Anyone who attacked them would face my wrath." "That is why they want you dead," said. "Yes," said, "I made powerful enemies. The military leaders plotted with others in my government. They created evidence that I was weak. They said I was unfit to rule. They sent saboteurs to my ship to kill me, but my security was good. I discovered the plot before they could succeed." "You crashed your ship to escape," said. "I did more than escape," said. "I gathered evidence. I collected documents and communications that proved the conspiracy. Everything is stored in my ship's computers. If I can send that information to my government, the conspirators will be arrested. The protected species will be saved. The galaxy will understand the truth." Finished the last connection. The communication array lit up with green lights. "It is done," he said. Moved to the controls and began to work. Her hands moved with practiced precision. The screens filled with data streaming across the display. A low hum filled the chamber. The energy built and built. "Sending now," said. A pulse of energy shot out from the ship. It traveled through the station's communication network and out into the void of space. The message was encoded and compressed, but massive in size. It contained years of evidence. It contained the truth. Alarms started screaming throughout the station. "They have detected the transmission," said. "We must leave now." Ran through the corridors with behind him. The ship shook as security teams tried to override the systems. The alarm grew louder. Red lights flashed in the darkness. They reached the engine room, jumped into the control seat and looked at the systems had shown him. The main reactor was at full power. The secondary systems were online. The navigation systems were ready. "Release the dock clamps," said. Work the controls. The metal clamps that held the ship to the station began to retract. The ship shifted slightly as the pressure released. "Full power to the engines," said. He pushed the throttle forward. The ship jumped away from the station with a violence that threw them both against their seats. Behind them, the dock fell away. The station became smaller and smaller. Alarms sounded from pursuing ships. Security vessels from the station were moving to intercept them, but ship was faster. The older design was built for speed and power, not comfort. The pursuit ships could not catch up. "They are broadcasting a warning," said. "They are saying we are dangerous. They are saying we are wanted for theft and sabotage." "Let them say what they want," said. "We are free now." The stars spread out before them. The galaxy stretched out in all directions. Station fell far behind, just a point of light in the distance. Looked at with something like gratitude in her eyes. You have made a choice today that will change your life. You are no longer human salvage worker. You are now my ally. You are my friend. When my people come to find us, you will stand with an empress. You will stand against the most powerful forces in the galaxy. I know, said, but what else could I do? You were a person who needed help. That is all that matters. No, said, it is much more than that. You have chosen what is right over what is safe. Your species does this sometimes. It is a quality that we have lost long ago. It is why I believe humans will have an important place in the galaxy. It is why I want your people to know that they have friends among the stars. Set the course for deep space. The ship accelerated into the void. Behind them, the station gave up the pursuit. They were gone. They had escaped. Now they just had to survive long enough for Empire to arrive. 5 days passed in deep space. Ship raced away from human space, moving toward the territories of her empire. Learned to operate the alien systems. He learned to read the basic controls and understand the propulsion methods. Taught him everything. They talked during the long hours of travel, told him about her world. A planet with 3 moons and purple skis, mountains that reached above the clouds, oceans that covered most of the surface. A civilization that was thousands of years old, with cities that had stood for. On the 6th day, a fleet appeared on the sensors. Not the small pursuers from station, but a massive military force. Ships carrying thousands of soldiers, the vessels of Empire. They received my message, said. She stood in the control room and looked at the approaching fleet. They believe I am still alive. They are coming to protect me. The lead ship sent a communication burst, received it and listened to the message. Her face changed. For the first time saw emotion cross her features, relief, joy, something close to tears. It is, she said, my military commander. He receives my message and he believes me. He has arrested the conspirators. He has taken control of the government. He is coming to bring me home. The fleet surrounded ship, not to capture it, but to protect it. Military ships moved into defensive positions. They created a wall of steel and weapons around them. A shuttle arrived at the docking port, emerged with a squad of armed soldiers. He was tall, with skin a different shade of blue. His uniform was marked with rank and achievement. His face showed the weight of military responsibility. When he saw, he dropped to one knee. The soldiers behind him did the same. Your Majesty, said, you are alive. The Empire believed you were lost. I was hidden, said, hidden among humans in a place far from my worlds, but I survived. I waited, and when the time was right, I gathered evidence of the conspiracy. She showed the files stored in the ship's computers, hours of data, recordings of conversations, documents signed by the conspirators, evidence that could not be. Studied the files with a military precision. When he was done, he looked at. This human helped me, said. Without him, I would still be in stasis. Without him, the conspirators would still hold power. Without him, the Empire might have gone to war. Looked at with an expression of surprise. A human, he said. His name is, said. He is a technician and an engineer. More importantly, he is a person of honor. He helped me when he had no reason to trust me. When helping me put him in danger. He is worthy of respect. Extended his hand to in a gesture of greeting. Took it. The grip was firm and strong but not hostile. Over the next weeks, fleet took her back to her home world. She left on a secure vessel with a crew that treated him well. They gave him quarters and food and access to information about the galaxy. He learned that his actions had already changed things. The conspiracy had collapsed. The conspirators were arrested and tried before a court of law. They were convicted on evidence that had gathered. The military leaders who had plotted against her were removed from power. In their place, new leaders took control, leaders who believed in her vision of peace. The protected species that had saved was still alive. They were still learning to build their civilization. Their people knew now that they had someone protecting them. That knowledge gave them hope. On the day returned to her capital she called for, he was brought to a great hall. The walls were made of crystal that caught the light and threw it in patterns across the room. Thousands of beings stood in that hall. They had come to welcome their empress home. Wore robes of office now. A crown rested on her head made of metals that did not recognize. She looked like what she was, a ruler of worlds, a leader of billions. She called forward and stood before him. "I want to tell my people about you," she said. "I want to tell them about the human who helped me when I had no one else. I want them to know that humans are not a threat. Humans are friends. Humans are people of honor and courage." "Why?" asked. "I am just one human. I do not speak for my whole species." "No," said, "but your actions speak louder than words ever could. I am going to ask the human governments to begin talks with my empire. I am going to offer them trade agreements, technology for medicine, knowledge for art. I am going to show the galaxy that humans are worth knowing." She offered him a position then, ambassador to humanity, a representative of her empire who would live among humans and build bridges between worlds. Thought about what she was asking, to leave his home world, to represent an alien empress to his own people, to stand between two species and help them understand each other. "I will do it," he said. The crowd in the great hall made a sound like wind through mountains, a sound of approval and wonder. Smiled, "Then welcome to the empire, welcome to a larger galaxy than you ever imagined, welcome home." Over the next months, news of the alliance spread. Humans heard about the empress who had chosen a human as her representative. Governments began to reach out. They wanted to know more about this new power in the galaxy. They wanted to establish relationships. The weapons manufacturers and military-industrial complex on Earth tried to resist. They wanted conflict, not friendship. They wanted fear, not understanding. But the people wanted peace more. The people wanted to know if there was something more than war and struggle among the stars. The Empire sent technology to Earth, medical advances that could cure diseases, clean power systems that did not damage the environment, agricultural systems that could feed millions. In exchange, humans sent their art and music and literature. They shared their history and their stories. Became a bridge between two worlds. He worked with human leaders and alien leaders. He helped them understand each other. He showed them that being different did not mean being enemies. One day, standing in his court, thought about the salvage yard on station, about the broken ship he had been sent to repair, about how a simple job had changed everything. He had been given a choice, help or walk away. He had chosen to help. That one choice had rippled out across the galaxy. It had changed governments and stopped conspiracies. It had brought peace to people who were different and strange. All because one human had decided that fixing broken things meant fixing broken empires too. And sometimes, the best way to repair the galaxy is to choose to help the person in front of you, even if that person is an alien empress waiting to be rescued, stood on the bridge of ship. Behind him, the planet grew smaller. The world of his birth, Earth, fell away into the distance. He carried with him everything he owned in a single bag. The rest of his life waited somewhere ahead in the darkness of space. 2 years had passed since he had first entered the derelict ship on station. 2 years since he had made a choice that changed everything. Now he was leaving, was sending him back to Earth with a mission to help his own people understand the new reality. The alliance between humans and his empire had proven successful. Trade ships moved between the worlds regularly. Humans learned alien science. The empire learned human art and music. Young people from both species studied together in universities established on neutral stations. But not everyone was happy with this new peace. On Earth, some people resisted the alliance. Military leaders who wanted power, politicians who wanted conflict, corporations that profited from war. They saw the friendship between humans and the alien empire as a threat to their position. Had asked to go back to Earth, to speak to the governments, to tell the story of how the alliance had begun, to show humans that the galaxy was a place of opportunity, not danger. "You are nervous," said. She stood beside him looking out at the stars. "A little," admitted. "I left Earth as a repair technician. I am coming back as an ambassador. They may not listen to me." "They will listen," said, "because you speak the truth. Because you are human, but you have seen what humans can become when they work with others. Because you understand both worlds." The ship began its jump to faster-than-light speed. The stars blurred and became streams of white light. They were moving faster than light could travel, folding space itself to cover distances that would normally take years. During the journey, and prepared for what would come next, they reviewed the trade proposals that the Empire wanted to present. They discussed the technology that would be shared. They talked about how to convince human leaders that peace was better than war. "Some of your leaders will try to take the technology and use it for weapons," said. "This is a problem we knew would happen." "Yes," said. "Humans are like that sometimes. We see new things and want to turn them into tools for power." "The solution is simple," said. "You must show them that cooperation brings more power than war, that friendship brings more wealth than conflict, that peace brings more security than weapons." "It sounds simple when you say it," said, "but humans are complicated." "All intelligent species are complicated," said. She smiled. "I would be disappointed if you were not." The ship approached Earth a month later, stood on the observation deck and watched his home world grow in the viewport. The blue oceans, the brown and green continents, the white clouds swirling in the atmosphere. It looked beautiful and fragile. A delegation of human leaders was waiting at the space station above Earth. They had come to meet and to hear what he had to say. Presidents and prime ministers, military commanders and business leaders, all of them uncertain about this strange new visitor from the stars. Entered the conference room in his official uniform, had given it to him, dark material with silver markings that showed his rank as ambassador. He looked alien in the clothes. He looked different from the repair technician they had known. "Thank you for coming," one of the leaders said, a woman named President. "We want to understand this alliance. We want to know what it means for humanity." Began to speak. He told them about the derelict ship, about finding in the chamber, about the choice he had made to help her. He described how that single choice had changed the course of an entire empire. "I did not understand what I was doing," said. "I was just a repair technician. I fixed things. But when I fixed ship, I fixed more than metal and circuits. I fixed a broken empire. I fixed a conspiracy. I fixed something that could have led to war." "Why should we trust you?" a military commander asked. "You could be here to spy on us, to gather information about our military strength." "I could be," said, "but I am not, because I have lived with people for 2 years. I have seen their culture. I have seen their families. They are not so different from us. They love and fear and hope just like we do, and they do not want war. They want peace." "Peace is impossible," another leader said. "The universe is a place of competition. Resources are limited. Species will always fight for survival." "I thought that too," said, "but I was wrong. Once Empire offered technology, disease rates dropped on Earth by 40%. When we accepted their agricultural knowledge, our food production increased by 30%. When we opened our borders to trade, human jobs increased by 15%. Peace brings prosperity, not poverty." The leaders asked questions for hours. Hard questions, difficult questions, some hostile, some curious, answered each one with honesty. He did not pretend to have answers to everything, but he told them what he had learned. By the end of the day, President stood and addressed the assembly. "We will accept the alliance," she said. "We will send our own ambassador to Empire. We will open trade negotiations. We will build bridges between our worlds." The room erupted in argument, but the decision was made. The human governments would officially recognize the alliance. Humans would take their place in the larger galactic community. That evening walked through the station alone. He found himself in a window area looking out at Earth, his home world, the place where he had grown up, the place where he had worked as a simple repair technician. He thought about the person he had been, before the ship, before everything changed. That had been content in his small life. He had fixed ships and gone home. He had not thought about the larger galaxy or the possibilities beyond Earth's sky. But that was gone now. He had been remade by choice and by consequence. A human officer approached him, a woman with kind eyes and a uniform that marked her as military. "Are you?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "I wanted to thank you," she said. "My sister was sick, the technology from Empire. It saved her life. My family wanted me to find you and say thank you." Did not know what to say. He had spoken to thousands about the alliance, but this was personal. This was real. This was one person whose life had been changed by the work he had done. "You are welcome," he finally said. The officer left him alone again, looked back out at Earth, at the world below, at all the people living their lives. How many of them would be helped by this alliance? How many of them would have better lives because one repair technician had chosen to help an alien empress? He did not know the answer. No one could know, but he knew that the work was worth it, that the choice had mattered. Ship would return to her empire soon, would go with it. He would travel between two worlds, a bridge between species, a link between civilizations. But first, he returned to Earth. He visited the salvage yard on station, the dock where everything had begun, the same dry dock where the broken ship had sat, the place where a simple repair job had changed the course of history. The ship was gone now, taken back to Empire as a museum piece, a reminder of the day an empress had been rescued by a human engineer. Stood in the empty dock and remembered. He remembered the darkness of the lower levels. He remembered the moment he had opened the sealed door. He remembered the face of waking up from her long sleep. One choice, one moment, one human who decided to help. That was all it took to change the galaxy. Left the salvage yard and walked back to the transport. He had a ship to catch. A fleet was waiting to take him back to Empire, back to the larger galaxy, back to the place where humans and aliens had learned to be friends. Behind him, station shrank into the distance, another station in another part of human space, one of thousands. But this one had changed everything. Because on this station, a repair technician had fixed a ship, and in fixing that ship, he had fixed the future. As his transport climbed away from the station and the stars began to call, understood his true purpose. It was not to fight. It was not to conquer. It was to build, to create bridges, to help others understand that cooperation was stronger than conflict. He was human, and he was going to show the galaxy what that meant.